What's happening, everyone? I'm Steve Metrics, and over there is
DJ Triggs.
it's your boy, and together we are No Debate Sports. And today we got a lot of things up on the docket. We actually had our first NFL preseason action last week, so that was pretty cool seeing guys in pads actually playing real football instead of seeing guys in shorts and t-shirts and giant foam balloons on their heads run around the field. So good seeing that. And then we had some news. We had a running back get suspended for 3 games, and then there's about to be another running back that's got something going on, probably on the verge of a suspension. But yeah, I feel more confident going forward with Alvin Kamara getting suspended 3 games than rolling the dice on who knows what's going to happen with Joe Mixon. I think like what he's got going on is a very sticky situation. You saw it in our league last season, Triggs. I had Joe Mixon on my team. I pretty much got like the best out of him on the week that he put up 50 points, scoring like 4 or 5 touchdowns, and some of those were receiving touchdowns. But other than that, I didn't feel like I had that good of a run with Joe Mixon in what I expected to be a very high potent, very diverse scoring Cincinnati Bengals offense, and just never really got that engine going last season out of Mixon. I mean, he was good, but he was clearly not worth a first round pick. And this season he's going as a 3rd round pick, which when I looked at my top picks last season, I definitely saw Jalen Hurts was up there at like number 1. Travis Kelce could easily be up there at number 1 as well. So I had them 1, 2. And then Joe Mixon was my 1st round pick, who really played more like a 3rd round pick, which is truly where he's going today. So just some more bad news out of guys at especially a position that we don't want to hear this bad news coming out of.
Right. And I mean, the next guy on the depth chart is Chase Brown, the running back out of Illinois, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
He was like a 5th round pick. So not like disrespecting him or anything, but you don't expect 5th round picks to come in as rookies and start right out of the gate. So I don't really know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of Illinois last season in their game against Wisconsin, and I did notice that running back did look good alongside when they were on defense. Devin Witherspoon looking really, really good, like he does. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Chase Young is a guy that you want to see kind of develop and kind of get the wheels turning and kind of lean into what Joe Mixon does. But straight out of the gates on a team that already does not have good run blocking is definitely concerning, and that's not what you want to see. And that ended up getting pretty much every rookie running back last season hurt, because all of them except for Breece Hall were on teams with bad offensive lines. But then when Breece Hall's offensive line started to get hurt, eventually he got hurt. So yeah, that's pretty tough, man. That's tough sledding.
Yeah. And I mean, Cincinnati's already got the Joe Burrow issue going on. So like, oh
yeah,
for a Super Bowl contender, that's pretty tough.
It is. Yeah, I mean, I've heard various different things. I've heard that he's going to be ready to go week 1 of the season. I've also heard that he's going to miss a month of the first part of the regular season. So there's various different reports coming out of what's going on with Joe Burrow. So it's kind of bizarre. Plus, I mean, that's a guy who he's probably not going to do much until he legitimately gets that real contract. So you have that hanging out there in left field that they're just ready to get that up and then see what happens after that. But it's tough. I don't know. There's just a lot of things going on with Cincinnati. Some of it is off the field that with a team that has as big expectations as the Bengals have, and they're in a very tough division. I just don't see this going particularly well for the Bengals this year. I think it's going to be good, probably make the playoffs, but the AFC is tough. You could easily think you're a good team from last season and find yourself not playing for anything when the regular season is over.
Right? Because I mean, Baltimore was they were basically a playoff team when Lamar Jackson's there, and then Pittsburgh's going to be pretty darn good, especially if they take a step forward on offense. Defensively, they're fine. Um,
Yeah,
and now with Deshaun Watson getting a whole year under his belt and an off season, you, the dude was a top 5, top 10 quarterback when he was right, So who knows what's going to happen? So the Bengals missing out for even like a week or two of games that they probably could win, which is, I'm going to just check their schedule here real quick. Like
it's it's
the
it's
first
not the
game
worst
was
schedule.
the first
It's
game is
Cleveland.
Cleveland, and then
Yep,
Baltimore, and then the Rams, and then Tennessee. Like, man,
that's a lot of
if you fall
defense.
behind quick, whew,
Yeah,
that could be bad.
yeah, they could be staring at 1-3, and just being honest, I mean, I know we didn't see everything out of Cleveland, but what I took away from that Hall of Fame game is that Cleveland has more depth as of now than the New York Jets. And how does that transpire against other teams in the National Football League? We'll see. But that's a team that if they start losing guys, they have guys who will be ready to step in. The defense looked really solid out there. The big takeaway that I took from that game is the run blocking. I was very impressed with what I saw out of Cleveland, and seeing that, especially on plays that weren't RPO oriented, which to me is more of a reflection of Dorian Thompson Robinson than it is Deshaun Watson. That I think Cleveland is going to have plays where they're going to tell you, we're going to run the ball down your throat, and we're going to run the ball down your throat. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
kind of like the Cleveland like model is to just run it down your throat. They had the two-headed monster from before with Kareem Hunt and uh, uh, Nick Chubb. I mean,
Yep.
they they're solid. They don't
Yeah.
have too many
Yes.
spots where they're bad, and they don't have too many spots where they're fantastic, but they're just solid.
Exactly. Exactly. And another guy last year that I'm already starting to kind of put my eyes on for fantasy football, Amari Cooper. And he ranks as a bona fide elite wide receiver for us at No Debate Sports. But that guy just felt so consistent. It was always a good amount of yardage and a touchdown almost every week. Kind of like that Devonte Adams kind of Green Bay Packer model that he had a few years ago. Just seeing that strong consistency was pretty solid. And now this is a team that has the true 12 personnel that Kevin Stefanski is known for, between David Njoku and bringing in Jordan Akins from the Texans. I think that's a team that's going to have some real solid power coming into the season. Whether it's their playmakers on offense in the receiving game or it's Nick Chubb and that offensive line and Jerome Ford after that, I think they're going to have some big plays, and I like the schedule. Now seeing that there's some kinks in the armor of the Bengals, knowing that you get to start and finish the season with the Bengals, I think that sets up very well for Cleveland, and it gives them that motivation that if they beat Cincinnati right out of the gates, now they know they can go toe to toe with anyone. It's almost going to be a huge confidence boost, whether they win or lose that game by a very small amount of points. They're going to leave that game knowing that flat out we can ball with the best of them. If we can play with Cincinnati, we can play with everyone else. And I'm pretty excited to see that out of the Browns.
Nice. Yeah, I was just looking it up here because I'm a stat nut. But like
Yes.
Amari Cooper, he still has the same issue that he's had his like whole life.
Yep.
He's great at home and horrible on the road. He
Yeah.
literally has 20 more receptions at home and nearly 300 yards more and more touchdowns when he's at home.
Interesting.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild split. It's almost like in basketball, like where you can just feel that some of these shooters are just much more comfortable on their home court than when they go to another court, have to readjust, get used to it. That usually evens out once you hit the playoffs and they're playing a series. But yeah, you kind of have that weird home court advantage disadvantage going on with Amari Cooper. So
Yeah. And it's so strange. Even when he was in Dallas, like it was really bad in Dallas. Really bad.
yeah, yeah, it was, and plus, I mean, then you're in Dallas, you got that weird sunlight that kind of glares into the game for those late afternoon games. Plus, you're playing on that turf. It's kind of weird out there in Dallas. I always remember when he was with with my team, the Raiders. It just seemed like he just wasn't developed. He was dropping a lot of passes, and he just didn't have that confidence. But once he got to Dallas, and this is definitely before the CeeDee Lamb days, it was pretty much Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup were the ones really kind of dueling it out for who's going to be that big time wide receiver. And then Amari Cooper got it. I thought he played really well, and he really started to develop. And then last season, really seeing his on-field chemistry with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, yes, you're right about those at home and away splits, but there was something there about that chemistry with Brissett that was there. The only thing that I still saw that was a little glaring was every now and then, like Brissett would just throw an absolute dart into the chest of Amari Cooper, and he would just drop the ball. And he does it multiple games. He does it multiple times. And it gets to be really frustrating because, man, that guy is like wide open, 15 yards downfield. Just put it on him. He'll make a play. So, yeah, that's the one frustrating thing. But the guy who we played with in our league who had Amari Cooper, it was pretty eye-opening just seeing his team was so consistent when Cooper had pretty good games. So I like seeing that. So I got a few other notes
just
that I
looking
noticed.
back, like I went to 2019 just to like.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I was saying
No.
for
Yeah,
2019,
go ahead.
this dude had 869 yards at home and 300 on the road. That's insane.
Oi. Yeah, that's almost
like he nearly tripled his yards. Like I don't understand how you can be that bad.
Yeah, that's very bizarre. That's a very bizarre split. I wouldn't think that. But yeah. Anyways, what I was going over was I was watching this game. I watched the replay on NFL Plus, and they have a pretty awesome feature called condensed games. So you can watch these games in like literally a half hour, and it goes play to play, kind of keeps you moving through the game. If it's a passing play or an incomplete pass, they'll just scoot along to the next play. If it's a rushing play, they'll kind of keep things moving to kind of coincide with the clock. So it's pretty cool seeing that. But it was pretty eye-opening. Like I said, Cleveland had really good run blocking. I noticed the Jets did not. I felt like the one time they had really good success was kind of when they were in the red zone early in the game, and they kind of bounced it outside with, that was maybe like Zonovan Knight or someone like that. But that was about the one play I saw them do really well with. Other than that, if they ever ran anything down the pipe, I just felt they didn't have any success or chemistry with that offensive line. So that still dates back to the issues I saw from last season when Breece Hall went down. I mean, they are backups, I get it, but it's still, you still have X amount of guys who are part of your normal offensive line playing out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting seeing that. But I thought Zach Wilson, I thought he was okay. He had some plays where the throws weren't that great, but then he had a throw to Malik Taylor, who's a ex Green Bay Packer that's part of that Packer coalition that joined Rodgers with the Jets. But they had a really nice 40-yard connection down the left side of the field early in that game. So that was good to see. I guess the other thing with Cleveland was that Dorian Thompson Robinson, like, that's a guy. That is a total guy. I did a little research after that game, and I thought he went in round 6, but he flat out went in round 5. And to all the teams out there that passed on him that needed quarterbacks, my Raiders are clearly one of them. It really makes those teams look really bad in the front office because I can tell you, like, Cleveland now moving forward, they know that if they get the absolute best out of Deshaun Watson and it's not good enough, they'll do whatever it takes to move forward with this Dorian Thompson Robinson. Maybe do kind of like the Jordan Love thing where you kind of have him wait in the background for like maybe 2-3 seasons, and then you have at least 2 seasons that you can utilize him either on his rookie contract or a franchise tag. He will not have a 5th-year option because he went in round 5. But man, Dorian Thompson Robinson's awesome. He laid a block down on a player when they were scoring in the red zone, kind of halfway through the game. And then he threw an absolute dart about like maybe 20, 25 yards out of the end zone later in that game. But man, he made throw after throw. He made really good scrambles when he had to. He made a really nice intermediate pass when he actually took a hit in the pocket, got right back up. But that's the kind of fight and kind of spunk. To me, it kind of reminded me of kind of like Justin Fields, a little bit of Jalen Hurts. That was the stuff I saw out of him. But I really like the poise. I like the confidence. And to me, that's a guy that I absolutely see like 2-3 years from now is going to be a starter in the league. And he's going to have that similarity to a Jalen Hurts.
Wow. I remember you were
Yeah.
really big on him during the draft process too. So that's not surprising hearing that from you. But Cleveland's wide receiver core just sucks. Like just the names that are there, like Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin. Like, I don't want to see any of those guys.
No, you're not going to see Marquise Goodwin. I do want to see Elijah Moore because I feel like he flat out did get a raw deal with the Jets. But Donovan Peoples-Jones has like been there through the trenches of the Baker Mayfield years and now Jacoby Brissett. And he's held on. He's held on to that number 2 wideout position. He's not a slot guy. He plays outside. He makes his plays when he needs to. So I like Donovan Peoples-Jones. He was a guy I kind of worked off the waiver wire, not last season, but I had him on the Baker Mayfield season. And I thought him and Mayfield had a really, really good connection. That was before Amari Cooper got there. So it was cool seeing that. But if they can make something out of it between Donovan Peoples-Jones really running a lot of go routes, and then you got Amari Cooper kind of working that intermediate part of the field, and then Elijah Moore kind of working the slot. But then again, like you said, you don't want to see all those wide receivers. Well, that's cool. If you don't want to see those wide receivers, they'll put Peoples-Jones outside, thaill put Amari Cooper outside, and then they'll work that 12 personnel in the middle with David Njoku and Jordan Akins. And then you got Nick Chubb. And, I mean, those guys will be pass catchers as well. So I feel like Kevin Stefanski now finally has the pieces in place that he wants to run that offense.
Yeah, but that's why they suck on offense, though. I mean, Amari Cooper's he's basically on the road. You can't use him. Elijah Moore's hit or miss. Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to get you like 60 catches, maybe like, I don't know, 500 yards. Like that is not enough. They are horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, it is rough.
Like, I don't even know Elijah Moore is like.
I mean,
Elijah Moore got 37 receptions last year.
Yeah, that's rough. That is really rough. And I mean, he was in the cellar of the New York Jets receiving core. Definitely kind of came to bucking of heads. He requested a trade, and the Jets declined it. They said, "No, we're not going to trade you. We'll put you seventh on the depth chart, pretty much." And that's where he stayed. So he stayed there. Eventually, they figured out a way to deal him, and they did. But yeah, you're right. It's tough. I mean, just looking in that division, that is easily a worse receiving core than Cincinnati. It's a worse receiving core than the Steelers, and it's pretty much going to be right in line with Baltimore. I would say Baltimore has a better receiving core, but not by much. Like Zay Flowers is a rookie. He runs really good routes. I like seeing that. But how much of OBJ do we get, and how much of Rashad Bateman do we get? Devin Duvernay, I think, is still there as far as we know. So, yeah, when it comes to depth, then I would take all four of those receivers over the three receivers that we point out on Cleveland. So, yeah, you're definitely right that Cleveland's got to get an upgrade there for sure. And this was definitely a good draft to do that, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Between those three guys, you basically got like 150 receptions. So, like, that's pretty
Ugh.
bad. I would
Yeah.
be okay with Mark Andrews, Zay
Yep.
Flowers, Odell Beckham. Like those guys at least are proven. I mean, they got Nelson Aguilar over there too, which people
Oh,
forget he's
really?
pretty solid. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nelson played
yeah.
pretty well for us with the Raiders when he was with us for a hot minute. I like having a
Mhm.
guy like that. He's like that go route guy. You just send that guy downfield like Quez Watkins, and he'll probably make a big play for you. He might drop it, but more often than not, he should make a really good play for you. Yeah. Yep. So
Definitely might drop it.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was kind of hit and miss, but once we got kind of halfway through the season a couple of years ago, then he started to make his catches. I think he started to see that competition from Zay Jones coming hot on his tail, and he made more big catches. That was kind of the beginning of Derek Carr making like really epic big time comebacks. So he did that, and it was cool. But that was it. We just ran him that season, and never saw him again. So yeah, I think he went to the Patriots, and then yeah, he's with Baltimore now. So it's kind of interesting seeing the journey of a player. But yeah, so that's kind of cool what's going on there. So yeah, what else we got, Triggs? I know I got some fantasy football cheat sheet stuff. But anything else big going on in the NBA news or anything like that? Nope. It's
Oh
summer.
no, there's literally like it's just Damian Lillard watching the NBA. The NFL is
Ah,
basically just wait and see. I mean, there's baseball news, but no one cares about that until September.
that's true. That is true. Yeah, I guess the one baseball thing I noticed is it seems like the Angels are like running Shohei Otani into the ground. They're gonna get every like ounce of pitching out of that guy, and he can hit. But I mean, you have a guy who just kind of keeps cramping up, and he's out there, and then I mean, he comes back into the game to hit. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that guy's gonna get hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, but he's the ability to go all like 7 innings into a game every 4 days while being an excellent hitter. That's just not realistic. Like it's cool, but I just think that kind of time frame is just too much on a body. So yeah, yep. So all
Yeah,
right. So
that's it. That I mean,
yeah,
there's some trades, but nothing great.
yeah, nothing too interesting out there with that. But yeah, so I guess big thing we had last week was we were showing the viewers what these drafts are looking like going into a 16-team league. But we know the mass majority of leagues that people are doing fantasy drafts in are 12-team leagues. So I know you and I were kind of pointing out some interesting trends going on with like when certain big name quarterbacks are being drafted, when some like really efficient, strong, solid tight ends are going, and it's kind of eye opening. And definitely, there's been some changes that have gone on this past week between like Cooper Kupp going down, Joe Burrow going down, Alvin Kamara getting suspended, Joe Mixon. We don't know what's going on there, but there's stuff going on. So if we bring up our cheat sheet that we've made here at No Debate Sports and see what's going on here, we can kind of see a little bit of what's going on. And let me see what I can share. Okay. All right. Let me bounce back to us. Bingo. There we go. So let me get back to our beginning of round one and kind of some interesting things that were going on. So I thought it's pretty cool that in a 12-team league that there's been a few things going on with the Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy that I'm hearing a ton of good things about. I'm hearing about how he works the slot, how he's just got this excellent synergy with Jared Goff. You see his highlights on Twitter or any of the socials out there. He's really making plays. And plus, I mean, he's going to be the center point of this offense for at least the first 6 weeks of the season when their sensational rookie receiver Jameson Williams is going to be suspended. So that's even more opportunity for Amon-Ra St. Brown to make an impact. Plus, if he's in the slot, he's in the middle of the field. So he's kind of competing against the tight end for targets. And we know they sent TJ Hawkinson to Minnesota. So it's like you have this perfect storm of good synergy going on with Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit. And to me, this is the highest I've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown, that he is almost borderline first round. And I don't know about you, Triggs, but just kind of looking off to the left here, I think I would take him ahead of CeeDee Lamb. I'd take him ahead of Saquon Barkley. And oh man, it's tough. I mean, it's tough, but I think you can make the case that you can even take him ahead of A.J. Brown as well, because now we're going to see an offense that's going to be probably more run-centric, and also they get back Dallas Goedert. So that Eagles offense is going to have a little bit of change to it. I like A.J. Brown, and awesome receiver, but I think there is going to be a little bit of changing of the guards with how that offense operates. So to me, that's at least like three guys that if I'm at the total end of a 12-round draft and Amon-Ra St. Brown is just sitting out there, I mean, whoo, that's a tough guy to pass up.
Yeah, but the problem I see with that is Devontae Adams is getting drafted behind him. So I'm probably going Devontae Adams.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And that's the pretty cool thing is with Devontae Adams is he was the most bona fide elite receiver for us last season, doing what he did. I mean, his bona fide number value, this BNV here, is like 4.7. And I mean, when we look at a guy like Travis Kelce, who's got a 4.8, and like no one else is close to that except for Justin Jefferson. Yeah, I think you totally got the case that, hey, if you can get Devontae Adams, get him. I mean, it's not going to be the firepower of a Derek Carr, but we know how Jimmy Garoppolo can play when he's cooking, when he's got the offense under his finger, and he really has a good feel for it, that offense should keep rolling. I know there's a little bit of Devontae Adams being upset at Josh Jacobs for not being at practice because of the holdout for the contract, and that makes sense. But I think then that even supports your case even more that they're going to have to operate more through the air. So a guy like Devontae Adams, maybe a guy, maybe even the other targets of Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow, and then even the other sneaky guy, Michael Mayer. I love the guy because it's Halloween. Like it's Halloween 2.0 with Michael Mayer being a Raider. So I love seeing those receiving targets that are probably going to be more of a focal point of the offense if a guy like Josh Jacobs is not there. And we know pretty much from our last week when we were looking at our charts, even though it was 16 teams, but Josh Jacobs was like somewhere in the middle of like round 2 of guys being picked. But now with his holdout, he's dropping all the way to round 3. So, and who knows how far he keeps dropping for as long as he keeps holding out on his contract. So I think that's kind of interesting there. The other thing that I think is pretty cool about this is that this is the first week, and granted, it's the first time we're doing a 12-team draft here at No Debate Sports, but we're seeing a guy, Jahmyr Gibbs. I made a YouTube video about this a couple days ago, and Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy I really like, and I thought he absolutely deserves to go in round 3. He's the rookie running back out of Alabama, takes the place of DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in Detroit. More so Swift than Williams. That's more the Montgomery role. But the whole all-around ability that Jahmyr Gibbs has that has now found his spot in round 3 as opposed to being kind of like the beginning to middle of round 4, I think is really cool. So that's kind of a strategy I'm kind of looking at eventually for drafting when it comes to our fantasy draft, is try to get Jahmyr Gibbs earlier than later. I don't see a guy with that kind of talent, considering how people rave about Bijan Robinson and considering their play styles are so similar, that I feel like if Bijan's going in round 1, I don't think it takes 3 rounds, no matter what kind of draft or what kind of format you have, that Gibbs has to wait 3 rounds to get drafted. I think he's way too good for that.
Yeah, I agree. With Gibbs, it's one of those things where Jamal Williams led the league for running backs with touchdowns. So those touchdowns got to go to somebody. And David Montgomery's not the back that he used to be. So Gibbs is coming in, like, probably eating up a lot of touchdowns on top of like we said with Amon-Ra, you're missing out on Jameson Williams. And then Marvin Jones is a little old. TJ Hawkinson's gone. So Gibbs might get some catches out of the backfield too. So he could be an all-around back and a steal in round 3.
Absolutely. And looking at some of these other guys, I mean, if you have a quarterback or you're waiting on a quarterback, I mean, yeah, you can absolutely make an excellent case for Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson, I don't know. I'd rather see it than have to be the one to believe it at this point. Putting a round 3 value on Lamar Jackson, I'm not totally comfortable with, especially when I can get guys like Debo Samuel or Calvin Ridley. I really like that value there. Another guy that I kind of I liked 2 years ago, but I didn't play with last season. I think this offense in Pittsburgh starts to open up with Najee Harris. I think he's going to have more opportunities now that there's more passing threats outside. Plus, your guy, big, tall Darnell Washington, is totally going to lay out some blocks and just annihilate guys at the line of scrimmage. And that really helps out Najee Harris as well. So I really like the opportunity that's going on there with a guy like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, Pittsburgh's offense is all going to be worked around the quarterback play. So he could either be like super amazing or just okay.
Yeah, and that's totally what we're seeing here. I mean, if we look at his Bono value, it's about 0.30. So we know 0 is going to give you about average consistency. And that's not the greatest, especially when I'm taking a guy in round 3. And I mean, would I rather want that, or would I want the same kind of elite fantasy production out of like a T. Higgins, who has over twice the value that Najee Harris had as a running back? So right there, I'd rather have T. Higgins. I mean, you're probably not going to be able to double up on T. Higgins and Joe Burrow unless you're in a smaller league. But right there, I think I'd rather go T. Higgins. Plus, knowing that Derek Carr is such a big arm quarterback, a guy like Chris Olave is pretty awesome. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Chris Olave in round 3 might even be a little bit of a reach, but just knowing what like we were talking about with Nelson Aguilar, and then when there was after Nelson Aguilar, you had not Damon Arnett, but the other guy that Arnett was hanging around with the Raiders. He was a fast, speedy wide receiver from Alabama before he got into a really bad car crash that pretty much Henry Ruggs. To me, Chris Olave is that Henry Ruggs style prototype of a receiver that Derek Carr is going to get to operate with in New Orleans. So I think now that that element is back in his repertoire, I think that Saints offense is really, really going to like having that option that Chris Olave brings. I mean, he's not the big time receiver like can't guard Mike Thomas, but I think there's some cool opportunity that's going to come with Chris Olave in that Saints offense.
See, the big part that I'm seeing with like a Najee Harris or stuff like that, like
Yeah.
in the next round, you can get Aaron Jones, Brees Hall, Travis Etienne. Like, I'd much rather get any of those guys than Harris, and you can get them around
Yeah.
later. So you could go out and get, a Chris Olave or a Debo Samuel or somebody like that, Calvin Ridley, you where they're going to throw the ball a lot. Yeah, there's too
Yeah.
many good running backs. So you can get a running back like 4th, 5th, 6th round now.
Absolutely. I mean, we're looking out here. I mean, okay, now we're seeing the fall. Yeah, we're actually already seeing the fall of Joe Mixon into round 5. We're seeing the comeback of Javonte Williams in round 5. Kenneth Walker, I believe he was probably going earlier as well, coming off the groin injury. So you got that stuff going on. But I'm with you. I think if I'm thinking more running back at this point in time, I'd rather be going like Aaron Jones, Brees Hall. Who knows what happens with the Jets? Do they bring in Dalvin Cook? Do they bring in what's his name? Who's the former Cleveland Brown, who is Kareem Hunt? Possibly, maybe Kareem Hunt ends up joining the New York Jets. So I really do like Brees Hall, Matt. Like, I really hope he comes back. But I think I'm with you. Like, I'd rather probably roll the dice with Aaron Jones and see what happens with Travis Etienne. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of targets with the Jaguars, and that offense is kind of interesting with how they like to hit all those targets. But man, if Etienne could knock it out of the park, that really opens up things for that offense and looks good for your fantasy team. And you got some pretty interesting receivers in this round 4. To me, this round 4 is stacked. And round 3, I'm not as excited about. Like, yeah, there's Jahmyr Gibbs. There's Joe. I mean, honestly, like, I like Joe Burrow. I think he's a good guy. I think he's got a heck of an arm. But when it comes to like being in fantasy, playing with quarterbacks, playing with guys that I need to like run and throw the rock. And yes, Joe Burrow can run, but like he's kind of taken off with a collapsed pocket. I want guys who can legitimately make plays with their feet. So seeing a guy like Justin Herbert and seeing Fields and Lawrence, I'm kind of along the thought that if round 3 like honestly stinks, like why not take a stab at one of these guys from round 4, and then when it comes back to your turn again, take another guy in round 4. I mean, like let's look at the like even the back end of round 4. DJ Moore is solid. Christian Watson is solid. Aaron Jones, excellent. Brees Hall, kind of a question mark. Drake London, a little bit of a question mark. DeAndre Hopkins, definitely a question mark. But then you got guys like TJ Hawkinson, Travis Etienne, Justin Herbert, Jerry Jeudy actually ranked very well with what he was working with in Denver last year, as well as Amari Cooper. And you got Keenan Allen there too. So to me, like this round 4 is more loaded than round 3. And yes, like, and even if we look at like our bona fide numbers, our values, round 4 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 elite bona fide players in this round, legitimately by our metric. We go to round 3, and it has 3, but 2 of which already have question marks on when they're going to see the field. One is holding out in Josh Jacobs, and one is hurt in Joe Burrow. And if he's hurt now, like what's to say he doesn't get hurt again going into the season? So you really got to have serious question marks with both Josh Jacobs and Joe Burrow taking a high valued roster spot on your fantasy team.
Right. And the big part that I'm seeing is like when you look at the guys, the difference in round 3 and 4, like
Yep.
I would much rather get my pick at the end of the first round.
Okay.
So then
Yep.
like when it comes through the second and third, I can just get those
Yep.
guys like where I get that big gap. And then I'm like, oh, round 4, now I'm ready again. Let's do this. And even round 5 has some guys where it's like, dude, George Kittle's sitting there, like
That's
Justin
insane.
Fields is sitting there. Like
Yeah.
you're getting a really good value player with those couple of guys. And if Mixon's good or not, we don't really know. But Christian Kirk's pretty solid. Like
Yep.
I don't know. Round 3's kind of making me just bummed a little bit.
Yes. I'm with you on that. There's always been this this idea that I've had in the back of my head where I'm like, man, I just don't like these guys in this round 3. Then what if we kind of leach into round 4 and then definitely pull the trigger on something in round 5? Whether it's like one of these elite tight ends, whether it's George Kittle and TJ Hawkinson. And I'll call it right here. I mean, yeah, we know Travis Kelce is up there, but in terms of bona fide elite value and guys who can actually like make it through the marathon of an NFL season, I don't think Travis Kelce is going to make it. I think Kelsey's going to start really well and he's going to have big games, but then towards the back half of the season, I think something's going to happen. I think he's going to get worn out and they're going to have to figure out a way to really keep him fresh for going into the playoffs. He's going to be like 33, 34 years old. He's a heck of an athlete. Like I love Travis Kelce. He was the absolute focal point of my offense last season, and I was going to do everything it took to get him on my team. But now with guys like TJ Hawkinson and Travis Kelce out there, I think they're absolutely going to do it. I'm kind of more along the TJ Hawkinson route because with San Francisco, I still have my questions at quarterback. I know everyone likes Brock Purdy and thinks that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I'm not a Brock Purdy fan. I mean, I look at all these quarterbacks that we're looking at, and even when guys are getting drafted, like Brock Purdy's not getting drafted at all. And I think there's a reason for that. And when it comes to the NFL, there's really going to be about maybe a dozen quarterbacks that are pretty good. The other like 20 quarterbacks out there are like average or worse. And if I had to bet right now, would I bet that Brock Purdy is going to be average or worse or be a top 12 quarterback? I'm going to say he's going to be average or worse. And I think that offense is really going to flourish for as long as they have both Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. I think if either of those guys goes down, that offense is going to fall apart. And that's why I would love to see Trey Lance be the one running that offense, because if that were the case, I would have more confidence in like taking guys like George Kittle, taking guys like Brandon Ayuk. Debo Samuel's tough. I mean, it's a lot that you're putting in into a guy who's essentially an X. He's a very phenomenal player, but he's a very unique player. I'm trying to look at where he's going. Do you see where Debo Samuel is going?
Third round.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, third round. And
Yep, third round, 32.
Yep. Yeah. At that point, I'm either going to roll the dice on Calvin Ridley or Jahmyr Gibbs. And I'm absolutely going to take both those guys ahead of Debo Samuel because I know their offenses are better. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with those guys.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, I was looking at that round 6.
Okay.
I was looking at round 6, getting really excited. Like, there are so many,
and it's cool.
so many picks in round 6. Like,
there's no quarterbacks.
Like Madison and Waller and Dalvin Cook could be there. Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Even like, I'm actually kind of liking Mike Evans in this spot as well. Like, it's going to be kind of a wonky offense, and probably that's more of a reason to avoid him. But Mike Evans is clearly the most valuable bona fide number player from this round compared to the other players. But I'm kind of along the line that you are, that like probably between rounds 4, 5, and 6, if you can, you kind of want to get either TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, or Darren Waller, one of those three, and roll with it. And I definitely know from what I've seen on Twitter that Darren Waller is really making plays in practice with the Giants. And that's a team that has a lot of like really cool options at the wide receiver position, and you kind of don't fully understand who's going to be the guy moving forward. I mean, I still like that Jalen Hyatt. I think that guy is going to absolutely ball out, but we really don't know. I mean, like Sterling Shepard's back, and Isaiah Hodgins kind of took over Darius Slayton's role as a number 1 wideout at the end of the season. But having that confidence, knowing that Darren Waller is going to be such a mismatch, I'm with you on that. That like, hey, in round 6, if I need a tight end, maybe you go Darren Waller, and you don't think twice about it.
Yeah, with round 6 though, they're like Alexander Madison. He's going to be a starter. Miles Sanders, that's a starter. J.K. Dobbins, a starter. Cam Akers, a starter. Like, you could get a running back later in this draft than in probably any draft in the last like 5 years.
True. And the good thing is too, is like, these are the number 1 running backs on those teams going in those rounds. So when you want to handcuff them later in your draft, you're set. Like, you can absolutely get that second guy and not have to think twice about it. I mean, Dalvin Cook, we don't know what team he's playing for next season, but all these other guys, you can get a lot of good stuff. I mean, I've heard a lot of the numbers guys out there talking highly about Rachaad White, but again, it goes back to like, how does that offense operate under Baker Mayfield? It's a different style of offense, so I'm not totally sure about that, but I do like how there is just this slew of like really cool number 1 running backs that you can get, or you can get Darren Waller. Kyle Pitts is here, and I think I've gotten to the point where like, I wasn't a believer in Kyle Pitts the moment he got drafted. I liked him out of Florida. I liked his stuff, but to me, like, all of his college tape looked like college tape. Like, it looked like he was playing against like a bunch of like peewee football players out there, and he's like the one big like dominating tight end playing for the Gators. And when you get to the NFL, it doesn't work that way. So I had this gut feeling that Kyle Pitts could not truly develop. Not only that, like, that Falcons receiving core stunk back then, and he was the main focal point. So they put everything on him, and he didn't develop. So Yeah, I would avoid Kyle Pitts, but a lot of these other guys, I think they all look. Oh, Tyler Lockett, nice. So you can get Tyler Lockett in round 6, or you can wait until round 7 and get Jackson Smith and Jigba. You know?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't touch either one of those wide receivers. But like,
Okay.
even with round 7, you can get James Conner and like be okay, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
I think Kyle Pitts might be a little better this year as long as you're not drafting him that high, just because the wide receiver core is better. So like, they're not just focused. The defense isn't going to be focused directly on him as much as they have been
Right.
the last year or so. So maybe he can get open, and maybe he has a competent quarterback now with Desmond Ritter back there, because Mariota
Absolutely.
kind of sucked. So,
Yes.
and yeah, nobody really likes Matt Ryan. So he was
Yep.
even before that.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so there's a lot of little fun stuff out there.
There is. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff. To me, the other thing that I mean, like we're trying to like I don't know, we're trying to pick needles when it comes to these Seahawk wide receivers. There's also like George Pickens in Pittsburgh, and this is an offense that's definitely going to take a step forward. Shoot, you even have Gabe Davis in Buffalo, and I mean, like if we look at how this round develops, they are going down in round 7, and that means pretty much no matter where you're picking in round 7, if you want a guy like Gabe Davis, and he ranks pretty highly for us for bona fide number value, you can get Gabe Davis whenever you want in round 7. So I think that's pretty cool stuff that you get out of there with him. But yeah, I know you like round 6, but yeah, I'm kind of eyeing this round 7 here, especially if you're the guy in your league that got. Let me think. I mean, if this is the Philadelphia Eagles, you have both DeAndre Swift there, and you have Rashad Penny, and I would figure that DeAndre Swift is going before Rashad Penny, so you're getting a number 1 starting running back in round 7. That's pretty insane. And you got like your guy James Conner, like you said, out there in Arizona. You got that, and if you had Jahmyr Gibbs earlier, well, if you want to handcuff him with David Montgomery, you got him here as well. And then you even got the beginning of the Chiefs running back tandem in Isaiah Pacheco. So yeah, round 7's loaded.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got some guys like you can get a starting running back, a starting wide receiver. Like it's pretty good to get Pickens or Connor or Swift or you know even Dallas Goddard. That's
Yep.
that's that's a pretty solid. The only person I probably wouldn't touch, well, there's two guys. I wouldn't touch Marquise Brown or Deshaun Watson.
Yep. That's where I was thinking. It's like we don't know what we get out of Deshaun Watson. We don't know what his accuracy is. We don't know what his mobility is out of the pocket. Um, but we know pretty much the majority of what we're going to get out of these other guys, and I feel pretty good about that. So yeah, that's a pretty good statement you made there. I agree. There's a lot of good guys, but yeah, avoid the Cardinal. That's not James Conner, and yeah, wait and see on Deshaun Watson for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
he was outvalued by Tua Tagovailoa and by Dak Prescott. So I know he didn't play a lot of games, but games he did play weren't that impressive. So it's a full off season with him and Stefanski. But yeesh, yeah, I'm with you on that, man. That even in the games he played, like he, I don't know what the number is exactly on a Jacoby Brissett, but just from watching the games, like Jacoby Brissett was clearly a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson last season, just from watching the games.
I agree. I I'm pretty high on Jacoby Brissett. He should win the job, but who knows? No,
Yeah.
okay. So I see a name up here that I'm really
Okay.
confused about, and I
Okay.
want to see what you're gonna say. But
Okay.
he's in round 9, and I had to
Round
look it
9.
up because I was pretty sure I was right, but I wasn't sure. He is the number
Okay.
1 running back in Chicago, Khalil Herbert, in round 9.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, so he's there. And I also
Yep.
want to say too, like round 9, that is pretty deep. That is really deep into a draft on a team that we know with Justin Fields is whoops, that's Rashad Penny. But a team with Justin Fields that has that mobility, that I think that should kind of open up things for the rest of the running game, like a Khalil Herbert. And Herbert's a really shifty kind of guy. I mean, he's not a guy that has that breakaway speed when he gets let loose. But like when it comes to working his way in between the tackles and getting to that open space, man, he can like cut on a dime. He's got almost like that Josh Jacobs kind of style to his game. I like him. He's a pretty cool back, and I mean getting a number 1 back at that point, and even like looking right under him out of Samaje Perine in Denver. I still think at some point that Denver offense is going to take off, and I mean, yeah, I don't think I could do it. Yeah, I don't think I
What
could do
about
it at this point
what
with picking a guy like Samaje Perine. But I'm kind of with
what
you, like
about
Khalil Herbert. Yeah, what about who?
yeah, what about the other
Yeah,
starter, Brian Robinson
okay.
from Washington? You can get 2 starters in
So
the 9th round.
that's pretty baller. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're gonna get Brian Robinson, just be sure you get Antonio Gibson. I was the guy last season who had Brian Robinson, saw Antonio Gibson go to the waiver wire, and then didn't get him. It kind of worked in my favor, but just from watching the games, to me, I still felt that Antonio Gibson was better. I know not for power, but just like an all around back, a guy who can pass catch and a guy who can run. Brian Robinson had no pass catching ability whatsoever. And Antonio Gibson had that, and Gibson could run for power. I'm trying to find Antonio Gibson here, and I'm not seeing him anywhere. We'll see
He's
if
in the
he's
8th
in the
round.
later.
8
Oh, he's
8
in the 8th round.
8.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I gotcha. So if you're pulling that trigger, then I would only take Brian Robinson if I can also pull the trigger on Gibson in round 8. And I mean, I'm looking here at round 8, and round 8 is kind of to me, it's kind of a hodgepodge. You got a lot of stuff going on here. Do you want to do you want to run the gambit and see how high on the depth chart Quentin Johnson gets? Kadarius Toney, like someone else can take that, and we'll see what happens. The Dallas offense, I'm not really going to play with at all, unless it's maybe Tony Pollard and his backup back. But other than that, I mean, boy, you got Jordan Addison here. You got Alvin Kamara. I mean, I still like Alvin Kamara. I mean, I know he's going to be suspended 3 games, but um, yeah, there's some pretty interesting stuff going on with some of these other guys. Evan Ingram, to me, I think could be one of the best tight ends in all of football this season. That's kind of where I'm at with this. But yeah, coming back to your story of Brian Robinson, I would really only take. I would only be focused on Brian Robinson if I was able to get Antonio Gibson. I played with Brian Robinson last year. He was okay. He had some good games, but I definitely had some clunker games with him as well. I had one game where he started, got hurt, pretty much missed the whole rest of the game. Like I can't put that on him, but yeah, I'm not too excited about Brian Robinson. I was excited about him last year, and then after he had that carjacking incident and got shot, boy did that suck, and it was cool to see him come back from it. But I just felt kind of like the whole toll of the season, especially for him being a rookie, I thought was really tough. But then again, you could be onto something here, Triggs, where a guy like Brian Robinson now has a full off season to get used to it. He has that season under his belt. He played behind an offensive line that's probably not that good. So that's even like more consideration to see how dominant Brian Robinson might actually be this season than he was last season. So you could be onto something about that.
Yeah, I mean, like just looking at every round, there's guys in every round where you can kind of go, and that's what this cheat sheet's all about. Is you can pick like 2 or 3 guys where you're like, okay, I'm good if I get any of these guys.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I like too how it can set you on a really nice path to getting guys throughout your draft, and you'll really feel confident about it. Like I know we were looking at one of the earlier rounds, round 7 with Isaiah Pacheco. Well, I know the Chiefs' offense is going to score a lot of points. So if I have more opportunities to get to the goal line, to get to the end zone, I know I can either get a really bulldozer kind of style out of Isaiah Pacheco, or if it's a game where, like, let's say maybe Travis Kelce is starting to wear down and maybe he had a big game last week. Well, what I noticed from watching Chiefs games was if Travis Kelce wasn't running those routes, the guy that was running his routes, kind of working that middle of the field in the slot, was absolutely Jerick McKinnon. So it's kind of like you have Jerick McKinnon, yet you keep tabs on what Travis Kelce is doing. If he had a big week the week before, maybe this is the week you kind of work Jerick McKinnon into that middle of the field of that offense. And if anything were to happen to Pacheco, I know there's a rookie they're talking about, but I just think you have a lot of ability with Jerick. I mean, we know his credentials are awesome from what he was doing in Minnesota and San Francisco before he got to Kansas City. And the fact that he's one of like the very few backs that we know all these backs are out there that are having trouble getting jobs. Well, Jerick McKinnon got cut by the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs realized how valuable he was, and they brought him back. And they brought him back over some of those other running backs that are out there. So to me, that speaks volumes of how good a guy like Jerick McKinnon is. And then it comes back to your point where I can get the Chiefs starting running back in round 7, and I can get his handcuff in round 10. I think that's pretty amazing.
On top of that, I mean, you can even get Zach Charbonnet or Juju Smith in the 10th, like in the 10th
Yep.
round. That's a lot of value because Juju's the number 1,
Yes.
or at least the number 2,
Yes.
and he's probably going to be the starter at the beginning of the season with Walker
Yes.
being kind of banged up,
Yep. Yeah,
or at least
I'm
at
with
some
you on
point during
that.
the season because Walker's probably not. Walker gets banged up a lot. Like just that's just the way he runs.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that angry Michigan State up the pipe, running downhill kind of style, whereas Zach Charbonnet is kind of a flash and dash. He's out of that Chip Kelly, Dorian Thompson-Robinson offense, and it's got a lot of flash and dash. So I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be kind of more of a all-around back in today's NFL, and especially with Kenneth Walker missing games, and it's a groin injury. That's like one of the worst injuries to have that like you're kind of like able to play, but not quite because it just lingers and it hangs onto you, and it's very easy to re-injure it, and then you're down even a longer stretch of games. So I think you're spot on that Zach Charbonnet, like you're literally getting a starting running back in round 10. But you're going to be fighting against the guy that took Kenneth Walker. You might have to deal for Kenneth Walker or something. Or maybe you go for our guy that we talked about last week, Kenny McIntosh out of Georgia. Maybe you take him way deep, like final pick of your draft kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that idea that you could, if you really need to sneak in a
Yeah, I mean,
late round
it's the
back,
10th
go for it.
round, so
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Triggs.
yeah, in the 10th round, I mean, you could take a swing on Juju or Charbonnet or Dalton Schultz Like Anthony Richardson's out there. Like, just take a swing. It's the end
Yeah,
of the draft. Why not?
it is. It
Even
is. Yeah, you
Romeo
got.
Dobbs. I like Romeo Dobbs too.
Yes. Yeah, he was a guy I played with. I liked him. He had a few games where he got banged up in the middle of the game, and a few times him and Rodgers just weren't quite on the same page. But also at the start of the season, Romeo Dobbs and Rodgers were on the same page. So I was able to sneak in a few fantasy points here and there on some of those early weeks of the season that he showed up on and got me some good production out of. So I like that. But yeah, there's some pretty cool things going on here. And then round 7, like, boy, if you're in a best ball league or you really just want that firepower on your number 2 quarterback, you got a lot of quarterbacks out here in round 11. This is round 11 is quite an interesting round, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like 11, 12, 12s, you're getting all those tight ends out of the gate. Like,
Yep.
you can even pick up like a Deontay Foreman, which why not?
Yep.
Take a swing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got really good guys there. It's pretty cool. I mean, if you had Najee Harris early, you could also get his backup in Jalen Warren. And we saw games where they definitely split some time, and Jalen Warren had fairly good production when Harris wasn't out there. So yeah, you got some pretty cool stuff. There's another name that's in this group that is pretty interesting. I mean, yeah, everyone knows I love Zay Jones,
Zay
and yeah,
Jones.
I mean, we're talking if we're talking our league and it's round 12 and I see Zay Jones is up there on my cheat sheet, yeah, I'm taking Zay Jones because he's probably my favorite player. But I do think this is yes,
Probably.
Oh no, I'm taking Zay Jones. Apparently, I mean everyone wants to rave about Zay Flowers, but the best guy in the NFL that first name is Zay Jones, and we're going to talk about him even more tomorrow when we kind of we'll definitely talk more about this Jaguars offense and kind of how that's developing and things that I think you can take away to give you a leg up when everyone else is kind of focusing on something else in that Jaguars offense. So I'm going to save that tidbit breadcrumb for tomorrow. But the name that I see above him that looks very interesting, and we've talked about Jamal Williams, and we've talked about Alvin Kamara, and there is this Alvin Kamara suspension coming. And we know that the bruising kind of back of Jamal Williams, definitely want to let you guys know too, this is an offense that has really good weapons, yet has struggled with their offensive line, whether it's been pass protection or run blocking. They definitely took a significant step backwards last season, whether it was Andy Dalton running the offense, the plays you saw Taysom Hill run, or for the little bit of Jameis Winston who was out there before he got knocked out. It is what it is. But this Kendre Miller, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about. I'm hearing that if you look at the stats of these guys from like Power 5 conferences, when it comes to like pass catching for a running back or like yards after contact, I'm hearing that like Kendre Miller is basically the second best player from a Power 5 conference that is not Bijan Robinson. So it's ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, is this Kendre Miller. Yeah, there's something to it. And plus seeing this guy show up in round 12 and like he's not at the total back end of the draft where we've organized this to the right here, but seeing this guy actually show up in one of the other dedicated rounds to me is kind of an eye-opener. That's a name I didn't really recognize, and even last week I thought I saw his name, but I didn't really know much about him. And then kind of towards the end of the week and the weekend, I started to hear more rumblings about this guy, and I'm hearing a lot of good things about this Kendre Miller. This is a sneaky guy that like come around 12 of your draft and a guy who's going to be taking time from Alvin Kamara to open the gate. I think there's something here, Triggs. Yeah, there's something here with this guy.
So the guy that bounces off at me before we wrap up and
Yeah.
get out of here. So
Yep.
he's the number one back. And I literally had to look this up while you were talking about Miller. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
no way. But in round 13, Raheem Mostert had 900 rushing yards last season and
Okay.
200 plus receiving yards. Yeah, and he only played 11 games, but he's the
Wow.
number one running back, like by far. Jeff Wilson's going to get mixed in there, but in 11 games
Yes.
to have 900 rushing yards is pretty nuts.
Yeah. And not only that, like that's a team that we know confidently can run the ball, has a good offensive line, and can drive the ball downfield for as long as, well, honestly, if it's Tua Tagovailoa or if it's not Tua Tagovailoa, then we know it's Mike White. So we can have confidence that, granted, they might not be the craziest fantasy quarterbacks out there, but we definitely know that those quarterbacks are definitely going to be above average and they can definitely keep that offense moving on the field and move the ball downfield. So what you say with Raheem Mostert and then like the speed demon earlier of that Devin, how do you pronounce it? Akine?
A-Chain?
I was
A-Chain.
not close, but A-Chain. Yeah, so you get Devin A-Chain in round 10, and then you get Raheem Mostert in round 13. So you're essentially getting two like awesome handcuff starting quarterback combination in there. Maybe you roll the dice on Jeff Wilson. Maybe you just kind of let him slide and see if someone else gets him, and good for them if he ends up being the guy. But yeah, like that's cool. Like you could take a stab on Mostert and Devin, and even if they miss, then you're like, okay, cool. Well, I'll just let go of the Miami running backs and let someone else go and work him, and I'll work the waiver wire and open up those slots on my roster. So yeah, that's pretty smart. I like where you're thinking on that. That's pretty good stuff, Triggs. So I
Especially in
think
round
we'll
13.
yeah.
Like, why not?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, especially in round 13 when you got guys like that. You got guys like KJ Osborne. And then you got, I mean, shoot, you got now you're starting to really run the gauntlet on defenses, the really high end defenses. So you got stuff like that. You got Tajay Spears from Tennessee, and granted, that's an offense that's going to be a little wonky, but we've heard a lot of good stuff in training camp about Tajay Spears and kind of how he really works his way into that offense and isn't just the bruising back like Derrick Henry is. So yeah, this is pretty good stuff we got here for the day. I think we got enough definitely for a show today. But I like where we're going here. There's tons of value at the back end of the draft. There's these guys that we pointed out in round 12. We haven't even really pointed out anything with like these tight ends. And then you got the defenses. You got other number 2 quarterbacks in this bunch as well. There's just a lot of stuff at the back end of your draft that you can really work with and play with. And I think we'll work on pointing more of that out tomorrow. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at here, and I think we'll wrap up for our show today. And what else you got, Triggs?
I did do a whole video. On tight ends on YouTube. So just saying.
Yes.
They're out
just
there.
saying, guys.
And a lot of those guys were in round 12.
Exactly. So all of our viewers, go out there, watch DJ Triggs' video, subscribe to us here at No Debate Sports. You're going to find some really, really cool stuff. And yeah, I can't wait to talk more about that tomorrow. So I think we're looking good. You got anything else, Triggs? That's all we got for today.
No, I'm pretty simple today.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple. You got a video game you want to grab out there behind you? What do you got?
We're gonna make this one simple too.
Okay.
Whoa. Make sure I flip my camera.
There you go.
There I go.
Jeopardy. That is very simple, very solid, yet difficult, and it is America's favorite quiz show. And speaking of, we were talking about Aaron Rodgers. He hosted Jeopardy. There you go. So we got that. I'm going to debut. I got a new belt. I got a belt here.
Go!
Went to the state fair. Check this out. This is cartoon animation Star Wars belt from Buckle Down. Like we're gonna eventually figure out affiliate marketing, but yeah, I busted out a new belt for a new week for today's show. You can get more of these at the Wisconsin State Fair, so check that out while you can. So I think I blew DJ Triggs's mind right there and blew him out of his seat. So that's how you do it, you know.
Cool.
That's how you do it.
Wow.
Boom. That's it.
New
So
belt.
that's how we're
Like,
gonna end today's show.
What happened?
Exactly. He's got no words for this. So that's how we do it. That's how we blow it out of the park. We'll see what new belt I sport tomorrow here on No Debate Sports. I'm Steve Metrics. That's your boy, DJ Triggs.
DJ Triggs.
Yep. Together we're No Debate Sports, and that's No Debate.